Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast show. I'm your host, Jonathan, and I am glad you're here. On this show, I talk with industry-leading experts about connecting with others, impacting your niche, and striving to live the best life possible. It's all about sparking meaningful conversations around business ownership and entrepreneurship. The Heart Healthy Hustle show is about finding connection with proactive peers and navigating a healthy work life with full autonomy. So whether you're driving to or from work right now, exercising, eating, or just relaxing, come hang out and get ready to enjoy another inspiring episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle show. Welcome back to everybody to another episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle Show. I am your host, Jonathan. I'm excited to bring a special guest once again to the show. This is a gentleman who is the truest definition of an entrepreneur, making moves, taking action, not afraid to fail, not afraid to succeed either. Tanner J. Fox. So Tanner, he's an Amazon guru, personal branding expert, and he's into affiliate marketing as well. So if you're at all trying to increase your understanding on any of those areas, tune in and tune out everything else because you're not going to want to miss what we have in store for today's show. Tanner, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We usually start out the show with a favorite success quote or a saying that you live by. So go ahead and share with my audience a quote or maybe a motto that you live by, at least in your business life.
My favorite one is work smart, not hard, but then be willing to work hard. Anyone working smart will get farther than anyone just working hard, but obviously you need both.
Fill in anything I may have missed on that intro that you would like people to know.
22-year-old entrepreneur. My main things are Amazon and then personal branding, which kind of includes YouTube and everything along with making money with that. Started entrepreneurship about 2 years ago with selling on Amazon, figured that out kind of from scratch, and then started YouTube about a year ago, and that kind of blew up, and now I'm here.
Cool. I want to really focus in on YouTube and personal branding, being bold and willing to put yourself out there on YouTube. You know, you've achieved some very significant numbers and goals that you had. Would you go into a tactical approach of how you would sit down, set specific goals in relation to your life and business, and how you would go about executing to achieve those goals?
Yeah, so there's a couple different strategies I use with goal setting. I like to start very, very general, thinking about, okay, what do I want out of life? What's kind of the goal? So whether it's, okay, I want to be happy, I want to be financially free. Start with things that are very general like that, and then narrow it down all the way. So let's say we start with, okay, my goal is to be happy. Well, what will make me happy? Okay, financial freedom, having my own house. And then I'll break it down from there. Okay, well, what are my goals that are going to get me to that point? And let's say, okay, I need to make 6 figures a year. And then I'll break it down from saying, okay, this is a goal, which is kind of like a result, to breaking it down to a goal that has an actionable step. So I can say, okay, well, my goal is to make 100,000 this year. And let's say I'm going to do it with Amazon. In order to do that, that means I need to do product research for an hour a night. And I need to contact suppliers 30 minutes a day, or something you can take actionable steps on, because yeah, you want your goals to be results, but how are you going to get there? And that way, I mean, even if you don't reach that goal, you know, you did all the stuff you were supposed to try and get there. So I like breaking it down and having kind of different categories like that.
Awesome. So you're talking about breaking down goals into more achievable steps.
Yeah, something that it can just be done. Like there's nothing holding you back from getting that. It's not like, oh, if this goes right and this goes right, I can say, okay, I'm going to upload 5 videos a week every week. There should be no reason I can't do that. It's not waiting on a result. It's something I can go do. And if I don't get that, it's not just like, oh, maybe that was too far out of reach. Like, no, I know 100% that's doable.
Absolutely. So one of the reasons I specifically am asking you to talk on this is because of your video on goal setting. I know you also have a video with your parents and there's 2 parts to it. And I was watching, and it's a really impactful video because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was picking up on the video that, you're still a younger guy. And as much as we can say we don't really let our parents' opinions run our lives, it still matters what they think to us as people, right? But in terms of letting it affect how you take action, go ahead and touch on that aspect. I think that's a big thing that holds a lot of people back. I know Gary Vee talks about it big time with parents. He's like, figure out what is holding you back or who it is, who you're afraid of letting down. Would you be willing to talk on that?
Yeah, of course.
Your parents seem cool about it. And it's funny to me is their attitude still is a parent approach where they're like, well, if it doesn't last, what are you going to do then? You know what I mean? Even though you're killing it, they're still, they're proud of you. You're doing great. It's interesting to me. There's always like that parental anxiety, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, first thing I want to start off with saying is, whether it's your parents, your friends, or anyone, if they're not where you want to be in a certain aspect, whether it's financially or in a relationship or something like that, then you should not directly be affected by their advice or their recommendations, because yes, you can listen to it, you can absorb it and hear it, but it shouldn't affect you if someone's trying to give you financial advice or saying, oh, you shouldn't do this, that probably won't work. If they're working a normal 9 to 5 and your goal is to be an entrepreneur, make money and have that financial freedom, and they're in a 9 to 5 barely getting by, their advice should not affect you. You can hear it, but you shouldn't listen to it and let it affect you if they're not anywhere near where you want to be. As far as with like the whole parent thing with me, it originally, I'll do like a little quick story on this. It originally started with me. I was in community college. So I get to live for free at home, just pay for food and different things like that. And in return, I had to go to college. I thought business was kind of the way for me. And then I started dabbling online, learning things from YouTube videos or online courses on how to start selling on Amazon. And I started doing it. My parents thought nothing of it. They thought, oh, it's kind of like eBay. It's a hobby, but go to school. After about 6 months of doing it, I started making over $10,000 a month. They're like, oh, he might have just got lucky, like save this money. Because, of course, right away, I want to go buy a Corvette Stingray. So I did end up going doing that. They thought it was stupid, which it was at the time, but I thought it would keep going. Let's just fast forward 6 months later. They saw, okay, well, you have one source of income. You're making $20,000 a month here, but you have one source of income. You need to still go to school. It's a backup plan. You can do both at the same time. Meanwhile, I'm skipping classes. I barely do my homework. I never study for tests, and I'll probably get C's or not pass my classes. And then I end up having to pay for any classes I don't pass because I was lucky enough to have them pay for my schooling. And so their mindset was like that. And when I started YouTube, my numbers shot kind of way up for income. I went from, I think it was at like 25 or 30,000 just from Amazon to over 300,000 profit for a couple months in a row there. And that's when their mindset kind of just start changing, because I had 7 or 8 different sources of income, some from YouTube, some from Amazon and other things. And they started to see what was actually possible after it happened for a couple months. And they were kind of like blown away and really surprised. And they're like, well, you should still go to school, but you can take, it went from, all right, you're going full time to, okay, you're going to go part time, still get it done, but you're going to work on your business, when I was just doing Amazon. And then once I started YouTube for a couple months and they saw the success and just all the different avenues, and I explained it more to them, then they kind of started to understand, and they said, okay, you can take a break from school, which was obviously dropping out, but they didn't want to say drop out. And then I had probably 8 classes left to finish my bachelor's degree in business. And I decided just to stop because it was just a waste of time for me and I hated it. But now they kind of understand it now. They just still think it's crazy.
Super interesting. I like that you still have an open relationship with them and that you talk about this with them. A lot of people would either just burn a bridge or never have that conversation. It's very important to go there, face those awkward moments and conversations and just get through that. You may find that something in that relationship may have been holding you back, maybe not. Depends on your situation.
Yeah. And I mean, they always supported me like from the start. They would never be like, oh, don't do that. That's stupid. They'd just say, be safe about it. Take like the conservative route, save the money you make, still finish school just in case. But I was never really affected by what they would say or anyone. Again, they were never negative. I never had many people like doubting what I was doing. They'd kind of say like, oh, okay. And then be like, well, what about school and do this? Mm-hmm. No one ever said, oh, that's stupid. That won't work.
Yeah, and honestly, most people who have not gone into entrepreneurship at all, they don't know that it's possible. It's just not even on the radar. You can make a living in a lot of different ways. It blows my mind. I'm only 26, but still, I remember the days of dial-up and flip phones, and I didn't have a cell phone until I was 17, and that cell phone wasn't anything like an iPhone. So the opportunity now that you can get just from going to Walmart and buying a Chromebook for like $130 and then sitting in Starbucks with the free Wi-Fi could make $100,000 if you're really focused. It just blows my mind, the opportunities we have nowadays.
Yeah. And once you get into it, I mean, I never thought I thought, okay, like the top of what you can make online, maybe 30,000 a month. And that's pushing it. And that's a ton. I was like, oh, I don't know if it's possible. But then once you get into it, see what's possible. You see these guys making 2-3 million a month from all their sources of either being like a YouTuber or things like that. And you're like, wow, so much more is possible than I actually thought. And it's easier once you know what you're doing. And if other people saw that, I mean, they'd never believe it if you tell them how much you make online for making a YouTube video or just any of those things.
Mm-hmm. So Tanner, touching on that, what would you tell people how to establish personal brands without social clout? Or let's ask you this: how do you establish yourself in a position of moral authority where you can actually speak on these things and have people say, wow, I'm actually going to listen to him? Because there's a whole bunch of people who are not really making money with it. They're kind of scammers, and they're, oh, okay, I'm just going to go online and start a YouTube channel when they're never going to grow. So how did you grow, and what did you do to establish that authority with your audience? Because your YouTube channel currently is over 91,000 subscribers.
Yeah, so there's a lot of misconceptions with why you should start a YouTube channel or what you need. A lot of people assume you need to be an expert. You have to make a lot of money. You have to be super outgoing and have that and know exactly what to post when you're going. When in reality, the biggest factor on YouTube isn't being an expert or just being that celebrity guy. It's being relatable. So that's the strategy I took. There are two different approaches. If you look at someone like Ty Lopez, he's that celebrity authority figure. It's hard to get his time. You'd be like honored to learn from him. Or you learn from someone like me where I position myself as, okay, I'm the average Joe. I started right where you guys were. I'm the same exact thing and I was able to do this. So why couldn't you? And relatability is kind of like everything on YouTube. Even if, let's say you're starting Amazon, for example, and you just document what you're doing. You say, okay, guys, today I'm doing product research. This is what I'm looking at. I messed up on this. I made this mistake, but I found out this. And you're just kind of documenting, kind of like Gary Vee says. People will watch you if you're relatable on that. You just talk because they're going through the same exact thing if they're trying to start Amazon. And they're going through the same issues, maybe the same problems. And they want to feel like someone's there with them and they might learn something from you. You don't have to be an expert to teach people something. So people will still follow you. You can still build a channel, even if you're not an expert or made any money doing it, but just documenting what you're doing because you can always help someone out there. And again, the relatability thing, I can't touch on enough. It's the most important aspect. That's how you get all these vloggers who have maybe not even that much entertainment, but you initially come to someone's YouTube channel for the content. So people would come to my Amazon videos to learn something. Then they'd start watching me and they start building that relationship with me more so than my content. And then let's say if I go from posting an entrepreneur video and I go post a fitness video, a lot of people would still come because they feel like they know me and they've built that relationship and they start coming for me instead of my content. So there's a lot of different strategies, but if you're relatable and just document what you're doing, if you're not an expert, that's the easiest way to start.
So I know you're passionate about how to start entrepreneurship. With people who are already entrepreneurs, they may be struggling to find connection with other people who are like-minded that they can surround themselves with. I'm sure you've heard the Jim Rohn quote, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. But you can look at that quote and say, well, that's great. I keep trying, but I'm having some trouble finding that circle of 5 people who I can meet with who are all on the same wavelength. How would you go about creating a team or just being a part of a team where the people you're with are real winners, they're doing big things? What would you tell anybody listening who's struggling with that?
I'm going to give everyone an answer they don't want to hear, and that is you don't need any of that to start. Once you start, do your own thing, find your success. You need to be able to teach yourself how to do things. If you can't do that, then you're going to struggle for a while with entrepreneurship. You need to figure out how to absorb information, teach yourself things, and then go apply it, figure out what you're doing wrong, and make small changes until you start doing well with it. And then once you get that success, learn something, have something to offer to those other people, they'll reach out to you. Example, my YouTube, it growing, doing well on Amazon. I've had probably 50 plus YouTubers that are way bigger than I was. Even at a time when I had like 10,000 subs, I had multiple with over 100,000 wanting to collaborate, work on certain things. Not because I network a lot and I know the spots and the people, but because I know what I'm doing. I'm good at what I do and people can tell from that. So if you think networking with them is just going to make you successful, it won't. You need to find it on your own. And if your excuse for not being successful yet or figuring out is because you're not surrounded by the right people, I think that's total crap because I had no one next to me doing it. I put my head down, learned online. If you want to say the people I surround myself with were YouTubers, then yeah, that would be pretty accurate because most of the information I was bringing in was off YouTube videos. So there's so much stuff online. If you can teach yourself, you can go do pretty much anything with entrepreneurship because the information's out there. So it's not your network that will come with, yeah, you can go network and do things to help it, but it's not going to be a make or break thing.
I like that. I have not heard it put that way before. So I appreciate your take on that. You know, you mentioned you put yourself out there to be found. You're not just hiding in a cave somewhere. You're actually sharing, you're documenting your journey as well. So, you know, your personal brand speaks for itself. And then, like you said, other people are reaching out to you because of the moral authority that you've established through staying consistent and putting yourself out there. So for some of my listeners who maybe they have a business and they're like, man, I'm really struggling to get numbers, or like we had a great year last year or fourth quarter in 2017. Now it's 2018 and we're struggling to numbers. What would you say to them if they're like, yeah, well, we really want to get into YouTube or developing our personal brand, but we don't know where to start. We follow the gurus online and it's just so much clutter and noise. Okay. So I don't know if you've noticed this, Tanner, and this is not a knock on people who are older because it's not just them, But I've seen people, let's say their business card, for example, and they'll put on the back 4 icons or 5 icons for like every social media platform. And then you go to each one and only one of them has even have any content on it. And even that hasn't been updated for like a week and a half or 2 weeks. But they have those icons on their card, so they think it looks good and polished. And again, not knocking that. I think it's a good thing to be introducing yourself into those platforms. But I heard you chuckle. So explain to the audience why you chuckled and why that's not a good approach.
People just go about it the wrong way. It's all about, with social media, it's about obviously the content and then consistency. If you're posting every day, you have so many more videos that can be found on so many more topics than someone who maybe posted like a video a week on a topic and make it amazing. But you have all these videos that are pretty good out there. You have a lot better chance of being found and people coming to you, which is why I post pretty much every day on YouTube.
I like that you said pretty good and not perfect. So your volume and consistency, 2 takeaways I'm getting from that.
Yeah, consistency. I mean, that's probably the best trait I think I have in myself is consistency. I'd rather do something every single day than, let's say, I'd rather work 5 hours a day every day than work 2 days a week and work 10. I'm a lot better doing something every day and get my routines and stick with it. And that's so important for most things because people will try it for a couple weeks, a month or 2, and then just give up and go on to the next thing. Where if you stick with one thing for a year and keep learning it and adjusting when you make mistakes and figuring out what you're doing wrong, tell me you won't make some money over that entire year. Most people stick with it for a month or 2, try it once, say, oh, this method doesn't work or this doesn't work. When in reality, everything online to make money pretty much works. You just have to figure out how.
All right. So speaking of online and speaking about making money, from what I've gathered from what you've shared, Tanner, it sounds like Amazon is your heaviest hitter in terms of income. If you would go into that and share 5 of your most favorite tools, given the names. I know there's Jungle Scout, a couple other things. If anybody who is either into Amazon that will be able to relate with what you share, or if there's anybody out there who is like, yeah, I'm about to go all in on something like Amazon, they can get some value from that.
Yeah. Quick background for anyone who doesn't know what Amazon really is. It's like drop shipping, but a little different. So you create a listing on Amazon, you find a supplier for the product, and you have that supplier send the inventory directly to Amazon. So you never touch it. And then when you get orders, Amazon ships it out for you. So it's called fulfillment by Amazon or FBA selling. And that's kind of what I started and what I did. And I'll just say the biggest 2 factors with Amazon are product research, and then kind of hand in hand with that is differentiating your product. So obviously, if you choose a product that doesn't have enough sales or is too competitive or a couple other things, it's not going to sell well. With Amazon, it's a little bit of a different strategy than, say, drop shipping or something else like that. With drop shipping, it's all about advertising and getting that traffic to your listing and getting it to convert. Whereas Amazon, you're taking advantage of all their free traffic. You just have to choose which traffic you want. So if I go after something that's super competitive, I won't be able to get on the first page for certain keywords, for like the main ones for that product that are getting searched the most. But if I go after something less competitive and still has sales, then I can kind of rank on page 1 for that keyword. So it's all about ranking for certain keywords.
Why do you want to rank?
That's how you get the most organic traffic. So if I go on Amazon and I type up bananas, are you going to search through 8 pages to find my listing? Or are you going to go for someone on page 1, maybe the top 3 listings? So they're getting the most sales.
Almost always on page 1. After making sure you're ranking, what happens next?
After you're ranking, it's just doing small little adjustments, whether you're running advertising on Amazon, called PPC. You can just bid on a certain keyword, and then whoever has the highest bid shows up the highest, and then there's multiple spots where you can be put. So it's usually just playing with that and trying to optimize it and spend a little bit less to make a little bit more, or going back and finding another product. Because once you're ranked, let's say you're ranked number 1, you're selling, all you really have to do is replenish your inventory and just check up on it. You don't really have to change anything else or do anything actively. So it's pretty passive once you get set up and going.
That is the one thing that absolutely blows my mind. I'm not in Amazon. I have in college, I was an Amazon seller, flipped college textbooks, and I made just like a couple thousand over a period of like 6 months just to pay my bills while I was retaking some college courses. That blows my mind that you can have Amazon do the fulfillment. Like they're paying their employees to do that for you. And it's so bizarre to me, but you are actually helping Amazon and then they also help you. So it seems like a very wild opportunity
to look at it. It's almost unbelievable how incredible that fulfillment by Amazon specifically is. Now, for anybody who is talking about fulfillment by Amazon, right? Let's say somebody's like, well, I applied to try to get fulfillment by Amazon 6 months ago and I've been producing, but I'm still haven't been approved. What would you share with them?
So with fulfillment by Amazon, as long as you have a seller account, you can send in your inventory. So there's no kind of improvement process.
There you have it.
Easy enough.
It's easy enough. And differentiating your products is huge because, especially me with entrepreneurship, with the different things I've tried over the years, I was romantic about how I made money. I was programmed, so to speak, to work hard and earn money for my time and effort. Whereas you won't, in my opinion, you won't be able to achieve your financial goals of passive income. Everybody talks about wanting to have a rental property and have passive income, et cetera, but you're not going to be able to actually achieve that if you're not okay with that internally. It's a very weird feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for me it is, to see any kind of passive income that just appears without you going and putting in sweat equity just before that money comes. So what was that feeling like for you the first time you saw your biggest increase in income?
It was weird for me. Again, it comes down to the quote of working smart, not hard, kind of like the passive income thing. But for me, I never really worked like 9 to 5s. I had a couple part-time jobs where I'd work 4 hours, but make like $200 a month and not working a ton. So I was always kind of result oriented. I'd rather work and get paid based off results than time worked. And I've always kind of felt that way. So it was really cool the first time to see like, oh, I woke up and I made $500 sleeping. I'm like, what? It's just a crazy feeling to see that, like, I don't have to do anything today if I don't want to. And I just made $500 and I can do whatever I want. Yeah. I mean, it's result oriented. Mm-hmm. So many people equate hard work with being successful. And put it this way, I was making $30,000 a month on Amazon, working less than an hour a week. Now, obviously, it's a lot of front-loaded work with Amazon. Finding those products doesn't account for that. But once it's up and going, I was working about an hour a week, doing whatever I wanted, looking at new businesses to start, learning affiliate marketing, working an hour a week. And some people say, oh, that's not fair. You didn't work hard. But that's just their insecurities coming in because they're working hard and getting less.
That is actually a huge point I want to touch on with you. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's so true. You look at that and you're just like, in a sense of being fair to the people who are upset. Maybe their whole life they've worked for, like, let's say, I worked for a beer delivery company. Let's say you drive a beer delivery truck. You work 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 4 or 5 days a week, and you get paid by the hour, and you make less than that per month. You go online and you see you, Tanner, or somebody else, and because of you're working very, very smart, you're making 4 times that. And you're not putting in back-breaking sweat every day to achieve that consistent income. Hard work does not equate to financial success, which is hard to accept. But once you accept that, you kind of open yourself up to seeing other opportunities where you can then create value and be paid off of the value that you provide as opposed to any time or effort, so to speak. But I love that you touched on that. Being paid for the value is so huge. I had a guy, he'd come out to your car to work on it. He was a mechanic, and I had to get my alternator replaced. And he came out and he fixed it in like 40 minutes. It was easy for him. I provide the part. I asked him, what do you charge? And he said, it's $85. And I was like, well, I'd like to give you a $20 tip because you fixed this, I can go do what I have to do with my own transportation. And he was like, well, are you sure you're even okay with my asking price initially? Because it didn't take him that long. And I was thinking to myself, absolutely. Like, you just provided me immense value. You fixed this car in less than an hour, and I would love to pay you what it's worth. I don't care if it took you 10 minutes or a whole day. I will pay the value of your job. And it's bizarre.
Yeah, and people have that misconception. And one of the ones I actually get, which I just laugh at every time on like YouTube comments, is, oh, you make all this money, but you don't have a real business. There's nothing there. It's just, you just make money. And that, again, is just people taught wrong and like their insecurities there.
Absolutely.
And I just think it's so funny.
For sure. And so would you go ahead and explain a horror story or the lowest point that you've experienced with Amazon specific? Explain that story and what happened, and feel free to share the nitty gritty details if you made any mistakes personally. What happened there?
Okay. So I had 2. I had one small one, one medium one, and then one big one recently, but the first 2 are early on. So about 2 months into starting Amazon and selling, not being super educated, not really knowing what I was doing, I ended up starting a product and selling a patented product. And this was the first one I was doing okay on. I was making about $500 to $1,000 in profit a month. And that was big for me at the time. And I got a cease and desist letter, ended up having to sell my first ever successful product and didn't know where to go other than start another Amazon product, which took me a couple weeks to start up. So that was kind of like my first really small hiccup. And then about 6 months after that, I started my first really successful product, which ended getting me about 15 to 20,000 profit alone from just one product. And this one ended up actually being taken down for a trademark on a certain term I used in my listing, which I had no idea was a thing at the time. And I was freaking out because that was 100% of my income on one product, which I was doing really good numbers for about 2 months. And then that happened and I was not selling that for about a month and I was freaking out. I was like so upset. Didn't know what to do and ended up getting my product relisted, reinstated, and going back to where I was. So that was probably the one that scared me the most because that was one source of income. And then the only really other hiccup I had or kind of issue was a couple months ago, I believe it was October or November. I had my Gmail account get hacked and I had everything, stupidly enough on my part, linked to one Gmail account. So they got my Gmail account through my phone. It was a whole process. So I lost my Amazon account, which I'm working on creating a new one right now and restarting, which was making me about 35,000 profit a month right there. So I lost that and never was able to get that back. So I had to close that LLC. I lost my YouTube channel, which luckily enough was the only thing they gave back for some reason because they were initially after Bitcoin since it's untraceable. And then I lost, what was it? $180,000 in investments in cryptocurrency that they took. And so that was probably the lowest point.
I'm sorry, what was the last part you said?
Oh, I just said that's probably the lowest point.
Yeah, it sounds terrible. Absolutely incredibly awful. How did they get into your Gmail? Did they link up to your phone at a coffee shop or what happened there? Do you know?
No, so they did it all online and over the phone. So they knew my phone number because that's not hard to find. And they called my provider and they just used social engineering, kind of just coercing them in order to activate a new phone and get a copy of my SIM card. So iCloud and everything was linked up there with my Gmail. And they activated that on a new phone. My phone randomly stops working one night. And then I see an email on my computer saying, did you try and change your password for your YouTube and everything? And then I go check all my accounts and they're gone. So it was all done through my service provider for my phone. Then they got Gmail and reset everything they knew was linked to my Gmail, which I said I had multiple things on. One Gmail, which I'll never do again. And then even on one of the crypto things, so this guy was definitely a professional hacker. He was after the crypto initially. Mm-hmm. He worked with someone in Gemini. So Gemini is kind of it's an exchange. He worked with someone who works, a cryptocurrency exchange. And I had $80,000 because I just bought some like the day before and it transfers in. And I had two-factor authentication, which obviously he can't get past there. But he works with someone in that company who got him past it for free because they kind of partnered up because they're professional hackers, because he did not have my phone. And even with like iCloud and stuff, it wouldn't work. It has to be this device. And I messaged the guy a couple times and he was telling me how he kind of did it like that.
Wait, so you actually messaged the hacker?
Yeah. He got my number and was texting me off some random numbers that always changed.
And was he?
And that's how I got my YouTube back. He was just messing with me.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Wow. So was the Gemini, did he use the same technique with them compared to what he did with the phone company? You're sure there was an
No, there was an inside guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. It's the Wild West. Let's get into cryptos now.
Okay.
Yeah. That's crazy, but it provides a perfect segue. Gemini is like, aren't they FDIC insured, but is that only for US dollar?
I think Coinbase is. I may be wrong. One of them is.
I heard Gemini was as well. I don't know the situation there as it would apply to your account, but it could just be that it was for USD only. I don't know what you're holding it in, but they are, for anybody listening who is into crypto, or you most likely know that Gemini is actually started by the Winklevoss twins, who were the real creators of the original Facebook idea that Mark Zuckerberg exploited and created Facebook out of. The Winklevoss twins, they hold a ton of Bitcoin and they created this exchange, Gemini, which is, one of the best, and it's used by institutions as well. So the fact that happened, even with Gemini, is just kind of a warning sign to anybody who has not yet, or who is skeptical about crypto. Now, what does that word bring to your mind?
A lot of opportunity. Decent amount of risk. By no means an expert. I just kind of share what I personally do. Right now, I'm just in a couple proof of stake coins. So that means is you have coins in your wallet, you keep it open, you mint new coins into existence instead of kind of like mining. It's a little different. So I just have a couple like that, and then own a little bit of Bitcoin and Litecoin, and I'm just holding long term.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's definitely the Wild West. So I think the move is to go long term and yes, store it safely and ride the wave. Would you agree?
Yeah, I have mine all on a, what's it called? Like the Nano Ledger thingy, a wallet.
Do you like that?
And then, yeah, it's fine. I had another one that was kind of similar. I forgot what it was.
Let's take that into today's video sponsor, the Ledger Nano X.
Affiliate link in the description.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's crazy. Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was looking at that one. I didn't want to pick one up from Amazon, though, for fear that it had been tampered with prior to reselling. So I'm just...
wow. Yeah, that's probably a thing now.
So affiliate marketing is a very doable thing. And would you say that you can start making some money fairly quickly, even if you don't have a huge personal brand yet? Would you say affiliate marketing is a pretty viable option for most people?
Yes and no. It depends, actually, is the answer. Affiliate marketing is pretty much getting a commission for selling someone else's product or service. So let's say I give you guys a link to something on Amazon, like a phone case, and you click through my link, which has a kind of tracking code so they know it came from me. And you go purchase that item or something on Amazon within, let's just say 30 days, depending how long it lasts. Then Amazon will know that person came from me, and I will get whatever commission is stated beforehand. And pretty much every business has this. And usually with affiliate marketing, not counting Amazon, it's pretty high payouts. Example would be for Jungle Scout, which is that Amazon tool I was talking about before. If someone buys a $100 software from them, I get $20 of that. And if someone signs up for a monthly payment, I get 100% of the first month for their second tool. So there's a lot of options with it.
Right on.
Yeah, and the cool thing with Amazon is if someone orders that one thing and then decides to order something else with it, they'll also get affiliate commission for that product as well.
Great. Thanks for touching on that. And going back to entrepreneurship, people who are entrepreneurs, they just are looking to switch up what they've been working on, or they want to supplement their income currently. What would you tell people who are in between jobs, or maybe they're working a job they don't like, or it's not providing them with enough to cover their bills and also live the way that they want to live and be financially free? What would you first recommend them to do?
Just start learning online, looking up what people are doing and what you think looks appealing to you and you think you could do. Find someone who's kind of living the lifestyle you want, see what they do, and then try and start learning that, because there's so much information out there. You can learn pretty much anything online. And I always recommend, if you don't have any money, look into affiliate marketing. You don't really need much money, if any, to start that. If you have anywhere close to about $1,000, I'd say look into Amazon. So with affiliate marketing, it's normally slower growth, but no money to start. With Amazon, it's usually in spikes. So you'll start one product, you'll start making 2, 3, 4,000 profit a month, and then it'll be at that for a couple months. Then you start another, and it jumps up a little bit. So it can take a little bit longer time with Amazon, but the results can be greater.
Right on. So let's go ahead into the Heart Healthy Hustle round. So I'm going to ask you a series of quick questions that play off of the title of the show. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So let's jump into it. So for your heart, what do you do to maintain your, keep your head on your shoulders and maintain a good level of self-awareness?
For me, a lot of it is spending a decent amount of time by myself, whether it be working or just doing things I like, relaxing. Like I can't work 12-hour days consistently. That's not how I work. Pretty efficient. So I just am able to do what I want, relax. And if I don't feel like working one day or doing something, unless it absolutely has to be done, I won't do it. So it's pretty maintainable.
So you kind of check in with yourself and take care of yourself well in that way, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So for your health, what do you do to maintain your physical health? An absolute must for entrepreneurs.
For me, I started working out a while ago, and I like to do kind of like a bodybuilding, powerlifting type training. And then I'll kind of gain weight throughout most of the year, aka bulk a little bit, and then diet down for summer. So relatively lean year round, and then in good shape, and just kind of maintain that.
So for the next question, it's the hustle part of this. So I like to ask guests this question now a little bit more sincerely than I originally thought to. What is your main motivation for hustling to your max potential? Is there something that maybe you use as a cue from your upbringing, maybe one point in your life, something happened that keeps driving you? Be as vulnerable as you're willing to be with the audience. I know they'll get a lot of value out of whatever you share.
Yes. So for me, it's kind of twofold. So I'm really competitive. So even if it's not something I'm doing, I still have to be good at it or one of the best. I don't care about being like the best, but one of the best. And my favorite thing that got me started and just keeps me going is initially it was I wanted a Lamborghini. That was the goal since I was like 16. And I always said I was going to have one before I was 25. I never knew how, but I said I would, even though I didn't believe it myself. And then once I got one or became a little bit successful with it, the whole motivation behind it is just growth now. It's almost like a game. I love seeing progression and growth, which is why I am pretty consistent. So my goal, like, I don't need to make tons more, but I want to always see progress. I hate staying still or going down, no matter what it's in, whether it's in the gym or in a relationship or with money. I want to see progress. And I am one of the people, I'm not going to say I don't want stuff. I want a bunch of hypercars, a whole collection. I want a big house. I want to be able to do and buy whatever I want. I do want to become a billionaire. My goal is before 50. And I don't know, I see that happening. I don't think it's out of reach by any means with kind of my long-term plan that I'm going for. And let's talk about one of the non-selfish things I want to do is this has always been a thing I love doing because I love kind of surprising people in a sense. Every time I would go out to dinner, I want to be able to tip someone at least $1,000.
Yeah.
And then if I see someone randomly that I think, oh, they're a good person, like just something like that, you get that feeling from people. I want to just easily be able to give them $10,000, $100,000 and do something like that where it's not a lot of money for me, but it absolutely changes their lives.
Yeah.
Because I'm really a fan of helping a few people a ton, completely changing their lives, than helping a ton of people very little, which is kind of why I'm a fan of helping individuals instead of giving to charities. Now, I'm not saying not to, but that's just, I don't get enjoyment from that at all.
Right on. So you have some noble goals and you have some, like you said, selfish goals. And, the fact that you're honest with yourself about that is saying a lot. So the Lamborghini, you do in fact have one. So go ahead and share how fun it is to drive that and what it's like for anybody who has not.
It's crazy. It's really fun. It's really fast. It's really loud. And I'm actually upgrading in a couple weeks to the bigger boy Lamborghini. So I'm excited for that because 2 years ago, my goal was to get an older used one, which was about $125,000. I would write out all the numbers of exactly how much I would have to make before taxes to afford it. And then I always wanted, so the car I'm looking at is an Aventador SV, which is about $550,000. So that was always way out of reach for me. There was always no way. That's so much, like not a chance. Maybe when I'm like 40, to being able to do it in under 2 years is absolutely insane to me because it's always been my dream car, actual dream car. And it's crazy.
So in that being said, for anyone listening who's like, well, wow, that's like incredible goals and you're super ambitious and how? So for the people asking how, maybe they're killing it right now even, but they're just still wondering how you're going at such velocity. Does that have anything to do with having multiple sources of income?
Yes, but you can spread yourself too thin. So for me, most of my sources of income are all under my personal brand, aka my YouTube channel in general. Because for affiliate marketing, the bigger my personal brand, the more I make from that. If I'm selling information products, same thing. My YouTube ad revenue. If I made a software and promote it to my YouTube channel, same thing. So the more my YouTube grows, the more all of those sources of incomes grow. So it's exponential in that sense. When you have multiple sources of income, all dependent on one main factor, which is growth of one thing.
Got it. So how do you get through the dips? So how do you maintain your discipline and motivation through those times? What does that look like in a tactful way?
For me, it's being depressed for about one day and then tell myself to quit being a little bitch and then figuring out a new game plan where I'm going to go and just going from there and not caring, just saying, all right, it's gone. Doesn't matter. I'll make that back pretty quick. Let's do it.
Yeah, so taking control of the situation, what can you do instead of playing a victim? Of course, you acknowledge it with the day of depression or whatever, or grief. From that point on, you say, okay, I can't change it. What can I do? What can I do? And start taking action right away.
Yeah, exactly.
I admire that approach. So Tanner, wrapping up the interview, it's just been action-packed. So what are some of your most influential business books and why?
Okay. Honestly, I don't read books at all because I'd rather watch YouTube videos. It's easier to kind of skim through them. It's right to the point and kind of how to. I've noticed a lot with books that it's a lot of fluff and a lot of the mindset and stuff. And that's not the information I'm trying to learn. I have that. I don't need that. I want the how to and the actual strategies. So there's only one book I've read in the last year and I really liked it. And it was Russell Brunson, who owns ClickFunnels, .com Secrets. And then the one right after that. So those would be the only books. But if you want to learn stuff, I'd say YouTube. Less time, it's straight to the point and easier to understand, in my opinion.
Right on. And you can fast forward it.
Exactly.
Awesome. I usually ask guests, if you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self, what would you tell them to do and not to do? But being that you're 22 and killing it, let's say you were currently 40 and you had the ability to tell yourself something now at your age of 22. What would you tell yourself? What do you think?
I'm going to reframe that.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to frame it towards this. What is kind of like my biggest insecurity right now that I shouldn't be worrying about?
Good.
And that is money. Believe it or not, there's always that doubt still in my head where it's like, oh, what if the money stopped coming in from here? Or what if I go down to this amount? When in reality, if kind of like worst case everything, I'd still be at like 30,000 a month. So it's always that little doubt that shouldn't be there. So it would be to not worry about that, keep working and doubling down on what you're doing. And even if one thing goes wrong, something better will come up, because it always works out like that.
Right on, Tanner. And go ahead and share with my audience how they can find you and share any recent projects you've been working on.
YouTube is my main source for everything. So that is YouTube. If you just type in Tanner J. Fox, you'll find me. Make sure you put the J, otherwise you won't find me. And then recent things I've been working on. I just finished a course on personal branding, which is growing a YouTube channel and Instagram, a Facebook, and all the strategies I use, whether it's like YouTube ranking and things like that, on how to grow it and monetize it, because most people don't know how to monetize it, along with my course on Amazon and how to start selling. Those are my main things. So.
Awesome. And they can find that through going to your YouTube channel and looking in the description box for links. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right on. Guys, as you know, based on this interview alone, Tanner's right to the point and he's not going to put any fluff in there just to make a longer course. Going to provide you with a tactful approach that will get you results. So Tanner, thanks for being on the show and providing so much information and value.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I want to say thank you. And also, I want you to ask yourself why. What about this episode really stood out to you? I want to challenge you to take action on that thing. If you enjoyed this episode, I appreciate your time and consideration to go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes. So it really helps the podcast grow and we can impact even more people who need this. Thank you guys for all of your support, and I will see you in the next episode.